Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member. Great to be back in this chamber a few hours later for the double duty, but a really important topic and work. I do hope we can find bipartisan common ground here. I do want to address some of the ranking member's last comments and questions because I can answer them pretty quickly and easily. Where was I when President Trump issued oil waivers? Well, in 2018, I was at FDD opposing those waivers, and in 2019, I was in the National Security Council ending them because we ended them in May of 2019. So I don't know where this talking point keeps coming from that Trump did this too. Maximum pressure started in May 2019, Congressman. We ended the oil waivers. All that money went on lockdown and escrow accounts. They have not been reopened until this year, until these transfers. Where was I when we were granting waivers under the statute that I wrote as a staffer in 2012, the Iran Freedom Counterproliferation Act, when we allowed Iraq to continue importing electricity from Iran? First, I was at FDD, and then I was in the National Security Council. And we worked with the Treasury Department and the State Department to ensure those funds were locked down. We allow, under the waiver, import of electricity. We don't allow Iran to access the funds. Now we do. So I don't know where all these claims keep coming from, but let's stick with facts. Let's stick with facts. If we today, in the wake of October 7th, agree that we need to do all we can to deny this regime in Tehran resources, that it is in our national security interest for the Islamic Republic of Iran to have less money, not more money, at its fingertips, understanding the fungibility of money, putting aside whether this $6 billion you're pointing to has been spent yet or borrowed against yet, an interesting question never asked. What about the $10 billion, Congressman? What about that money that was moved out of Iraq to Oman? We have no information about it. We just heard yesterday the waiver was just introduced into the record. We've just learned about it. What's been spent out of there? Is that money frozen? Have the Omanis agreed to that? Have the Iraqis agreed to that? When that waiver expires, will we revert to the old waiver and ensure that money in Baghdad gets locked down for electricity payments? We can allow Iraq to import electricity. We don't have to allow Iran access to the money. Oil sanctions. This isn't just new. This summer, we saw this massive spike as the secret nuclear deal that I outlined in my testimony, my written testimony, started. After Brett McGurk, the White House Middle East coordinator, had gone to Oman, negotiated through the Omanis a secret nuclear understanding, using all kinds of interesting pretexts and executive authorities to start releasing money and stop enforcing sanctions. Why? Because they knew politically they couldn't come to this House to submit a deal under the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act to evade the laws we have all passed, that you have all voted on in the past. Why did they do that? Because they wanted a nuclear understanding. They wanted to just say, oh, please, just don't go across that 90% enriched uranium threshold. We heard yesterday in testimony that, oh, we should never have gotten out of the JCPOA. Look at Iran's nuclear program today. The vast majority of Iran's advancement in its nuclear activities have happened since January 2021. That's when they crossed to 20% enriched uranium, and then to 60%. And now, just a stone's throw away, showing us their technical capability to get to 90%. Only when we went from maximum pressure to maximum concessions, maximum deference. The policy needs to change. Oil exports have been steadily rising with non-enforcement throughout 2021 and 2022. It was only this year that they went through the roof, with some reports topping 2 million barrels per day in August under this nuclear deal. And so, no, Congressman, I'm not saying this $6 billion was used to fund October 7th. It's factually inaccurate. But a posture of appeasement for 2.5 years that emboldens this regime, a summer negotiated secret nuclear understanding that allows this regime to say, well, the Americans are off the table. They're afraid of us. They're deterred. We've already cut a pact with Saudi Arabia, too, through the Chinese earlier in the year. Now we can turn all of our sights on Israel, the only country in the Middle East operating inside of Iran to stop that nuclear program. Now we can activate all of our terror tentacles that we, the IRGC, coordinate in Beirut, a cell coordinating Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic Jihad. That's what we need to come together to say, let's lock down these resources. Let's turn our posture from appeasement to deterrence, to pressure. That is how we take on the terror tentacles of Tehran. Look forward to your questions today. Thank you so much for holding this hearing. I know that Qatar came up yesterday. There may be a hostage deal today involving Qatar. I think it's important we address that in the double game Qatar plays, but I look forward to your questions.